YouTube, it's your boy CJ the Barber Prodigy, and I'm back with another one. Today we're gonna be doing a burst fade. It's a real popular kids cut, and a lot of adults get it as well. So we're gonna start out by combing the hair. As always, I recommend only combing the area where you're about to cut, because normally when you get the combing the top, when they've already grown it like that, especially if you're dealing with kids, they get real sensitive about combing their hair when it hasn't been combed out. So just to avoid that fight and make it process smoother on you and the client, only comb the area that you need to cut. All right, so we're gonna spark this off with the Barber Prodigy trimmers. We're gonna go in and make that bald line, that V line in the back. I like to start out doing this first just to give myself a guide as far as how far to go back in the fade in the back. And you know, that's what makes a burst fade distinct from the mohawk and other cuts similar, is that it has that V in the back. And sometimes you can do a curve too, depending on the client's preferences. My son personally likes the V cut. So of course I'm gonna start out by making my zero line and then go in, turn the trimmer blade upside down and clean that hair off of the neckline. Keep in mind, when you're dealing with children, you want to avoid using razors as often as possible. So try to get the neck as clean as you can with the trimmers and to get the cut as sharp as possible. I always have them tilt their head, and kids are real sensitive about the nape area. So I always have them tilt their head and try to make it tight so that, you know, they don't, you know, jump or move around a lot when you got the trimmers back there. Sometimes it tickles them, sometimes it hurts them, depending on how sensitive they are. So after that, we're gonna go in on the side and we're gonna start making a semicircle around the ear. Just start to make your bald line around the ear in a semicircular shape and clean it up as you go. Of course, always be combing as you go and stretching the skin. Those are very important. Both of those help you to have a cleaner fade. And I'm repeating the same steps on both sides. Again, I said this in a previous video, when you're doing your zero line, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make it as close to similar as possible, because this determines the shape of your fade. And so you don't want it to be too sloppy, but it doesn't have to be perfect either. And I always check them to make sure they're close to symmetrical before I go in and start fading. Now I'm gonna take my Barber Prodigy clippers, go in around that same semicircle up about a ½ inch. My cutting blade is all the way open right now. Next, I'm gonna go in and close my blade about halfway and go up and start to fade it out. And I alternate between halfway and all the way closed to flick out that bottom line. Sometimes you don't have to go all the way closed depending on the client's hair. But the main goal is to get that smooth fade from bald to that first level you just cut. All right, now we're gonna use our zero guard all the way open, and we're gonna go up to the highest part of the fade. And this is my famous one guard fading system. If you notice in all my videos, I normally only fade with one guard, and that's the zero guard. And I'm combing as I go. Again, going all the way up, going over it a few times because I want to make sure I'm giving it a smooth blend and cutting as much of the hair as possible. And now we'll close the clippers and go down on the same area where we just went up on. Just trying to be, as thorough as possible, cutting as much of the hair as possible. All right, and now we're gonna close the clippers and go up about halfway to the maximum height of the fade. And this should be your final steps to give it that nice faded look. And just like with the open blade, you wanna go over it a few times and make sure that you're being as thorough, because this is the part where the fade really starts to come together. And you want to make sure that you're getting that shape you want, you're getting that fade you want, you're getting all of those hairs that might curl up or that you might normally miss. So just make sure that you take your time on this part. Once you feel that the fade is satisfactory with the guard, you want to go ahead and remove the guard and open the clippers all the way up and just detail it and make sure that you didn't miss anything between that 0 area and where the fade actually begins. So you're just taking the teeth, and I'm not going at it from a slanted angle. Whenever I detail, my clippers are parallel to the floor so that only the tips of the teeth and the cutting blade are touching the hair. And as you see, I alternate between corners and the tips of the teeth. So once you're completely satisfied with how it turned out, go ahead and rotate them around and get started on the other side. And you're gonna repeat the same steps. I'll put them up on the screen, but I'm not gonna talk you through it this time, because again, it's the same steps as before. And you'll see with burst fades, it goes really, really fast. So it's not something that you'll struggle a lot with. Fade wise, in my opinion, the burst fade is one of the easiest fades to do.
You are now listening to Anywaywell. Welcome to our music family.
So as I near completion of the second side, I go ahead and spin them around because I want to make sure that my fades on both sides look exactly the same. Symmetry is very important in our line of work. All right, it's time to work on his lines. So I got my level 3 hairspray, and I'm gonna go ahead and spritz that over his line and take my dryer and dry it. And of course, you want to comb out the areas where you intend to cut. Sometimes I do this before I spray the whole spray. Sometimes I do it before I dry it. Sometimes I do it while I'm drying. I don't think it really matters when you do it, as long as you remember to do it and make sure that that line is nice and even all the way across before you start to go in. Let me grab my hitters, my Barber Prodigy trimmers, and we're gonna go in and start at the middle point of that line and work our way to either end. Whichever end you choose to do first is your preference. Sometimes I'll do it as I'm doing it now, where I work both ends at the same time, just so that I can see the whole line coming together at once. And you don't have to dig in with trimmers. Light taps is all you need to really get the desired effect, that really sharp, crispy line. If your trimmers are gap right, always make sure those bottom teeth are not overlapping the top teeth, because you will cut your customer up. And as you see, when they gap right, again, lightly tapping the skin, and it's already coming out crispy, no enhancements or anything added at this point, and you can already see the sharp line. You'll also notice that I take my blade and I go up and clean some of the hairs off his skin. I also take it facing down and take some of the hairs off of his forehead. Anywhere where you see excess hairs, try to clean them up as much as possible. Now when you're lining them up right, always look for that parallel between the forehead and his box. This is the most natural way you can line up a client. This goes with the symmetrical lines of their face, and you follow their natural contours. You don't want to recreate the line where you feel it's best suited. Try to always keep it as natural as possible. And so I will spin them around. I like to touch up the back a little more at the end as well and comb as I go, just in case I missed any of those curly hairs. So now I'm gonna spin them around and just continue the same practices and techniques that I was doing on the other side, just to ensure that it's completely symmetrical, making sure that the box is parallel to the forehead, making sure I'm lightly tapping the line so I'm not damaging the skin. Just continue to do the same thing, the same principles, the same techniques that you did on the other side, and I guarantee you're gonna get them crispy every time. Symmetry is very important, and especially when you're doing this line, this box. It's easy to mess up when you are, more dominant in one hand, because you're used to getting it perfect on one side, and then on the other side it's a little more challenging. But that's a little normal, especially when you're just starting out. You get more comfortable with it as you go. And when you're doing the C-cup, try to use your corners more than your full blade, because you're going to get a sharper cut. You're going to have more control over that C-cup as well, and kind of be able to direct the trimmers a little easier where you want them to go. As you can see, I'm taking my blade, turning it upside down, and just cleaning up some of those areas where we originally didn't bald it out as detailed. You want to make sure that zero area is very clean. And when I say zero area, I mean the skin area. So now I'll go through and check every angle of the cut. Make sure we didn't miss anything. I noticed some baby hairs that didn't get shaved earlier. So just take your trimmers and lightly clean up those baby hairs if there are any. And just leave the forehead looking as clean as possible. All right, time to curl those curls. My curling foam of choice is Crown Wave and Curl Defining Foam. It is 100% natural, so you don't have to use as much of it as the other curl foams. And I like to start by massaging it deep into the scalp with my fingers, just so that it can hydrate all the way down to the scalp and not miss anything. Normally, if you just curl it with the sponge or just curl it with the comb, with the twisted up comb, it doesn't always penetrate down to the surface. So I want to leave my client's hair as clean and neat as possible. And for those of you that are curious, the product that I'm using to get his curls recurled is the twisted up comb. I will put the link below. Again, I'm sure I said this in some other videos, but I do believe that this is a much better product to use when curling the hair than the sponge, because it's easier to clean and it doesn't hold bacteria the same way that a sponge does. So I'll take a little break from twisting and apply some Crown Rapid Growth Oil. I love this growth oil. It leaves an amazing smell. It helps the hair grow naturally and stay healthy and full all the way through. So I definitely recommend using this product in combination with the wave foam. As you can see, it definitely helps the curls to pop more, and it still they have that shine and that luster about them. Hands down, best on the market, I promise you. And we're done. Check out the cut. As you can see, the lineup is super crispy, got a little natural ash line going. The fade is blurry, and that's what you want. That's what your goal is, a quality cut all the way around. And as you can see, I know you notice his skin's a little different, a little brighter. We actually applied a little Crown Skin Therapy lotion on it. He requested it. He actually wanted to show it off to you guys, so I told him I'd include this clip. As always, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so that you can be notified of new content. Stay up and continue to perfect your craft. I'm out.